Hello, and welcome back to Lewis Talk City, where today we're going to be talking about the midfield problems at Manchester City and some of the transfers that City are looking at, but also the players that could be leaving the club. Hope everyone is well. I've been away for a bit, been on holiday. Like and subscribe if you like the content, and we're going to move on. So, first piece of news that came out earlier by Simon Bajkowski is that Kalvin Phillips is set to rejoin Sheffield United on loan. Already kind of knew that this was going to happen, knew that Kalvin Phillips was going to get loaned back. He's got a contract until 2028. But the key thing is with the Kalvin Phillips deal is that he is a player that came in, thought that he was going to do really well at the club, but still hasn't managed to, and has been sent out on loan countless times to different teams. He's going back to Sheffield United. He's got a deal until 2028. And I can't really see anyone willing to actually go out of their way and buy the player. But I can see them just getting him on loan at every time until 2028, where his contract will expire and then he'll go as a free agent. Wish Calvin the best. I mean, he'll probably be back at the club next year, and then get loaned back out. But yeah, wish him the best for Sheffield United and hope they can do well next season. Real Madrid have now approached Manchester City for the first time regarding a transfer for Rodri, and negotiations have started. Florentino Perez has given his approval to a deal, with Real indicating that they are ready to spend over 50 million euros on the midfielder. Rodri's a tricky one. I feel this could be the last time we see Rodri in a City shirt last season. He wants to go back to Spain. Wife got a doctor's job over there, wants to start a family, but also just wants to join a new club. Now, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, he was asked in an interview if he'd ever go back, and he said that he would like to, but at the current moment, he was happy at City. Of course, he wants to go back to Real or Atletico in Spain because that's where he's from. And what we need to remember is that not every player is a Manchester City fan. They are fans of teams that have started their career or that they've looked up to when they're a child. He'll probably leave saying that he is a City fan, and there is a bit that will probably make him sad when he leaves. But at the same time, you have to look at it. If Real Madrid's where he's wanted to go and where he will go, then you can't really do much about it. 50 million euros, over 50 million is what they're saying here. That's around, I think 50 million's 42 million pounds when you convert it. And it's not a lot of money for a player that I thought maybe we could get some more out of. I do know that Real Madrid have a habit of this, constantly trying to get players for cheap prices, constantly trying to get them on frees, for instance. But he's got 1 year left on his deal. He wants to go back to Spain. Will it be this year or will it be next summer that he actually does make that move? That's for him and Viana and that to decide. But 50 million's not actually that much for a player of his quality, a Ballon d'Or winner. We know he came back from injury, but he still played quite well. He had a good World Cup, not a great World Cup, but a good World Cup. He won the World Cup, has completed football, but I feel the price tag is a bit low, even if it's say 60 million euros, because that would be what, about 50 million pounds, something like that. It's still not a lot, you know, and that's something that the club need to look at and say, is it worth keeping him this year or and letting him leave on a free? Or is it that what we should do instead is just say, there you go, you can have him for 50 million and then try and invest that in a new target, which is what we're going to go on to next. Manchester City continue to pursue Lille's Ayyoub Bouaddi, who had been recommended by club scouts before the World Cup. The French side have been holding out for £85 million this summer, but the two clubs are still negotiating over a deal. Another bit of information by Simon Bajkowski, stating that Lille's Ayyoub Bouaddi has been scouted by Manchester City. He's a good player. I would like him, but I feel that he won't play all the games next season. He'll play a selected amount, maybe what 18, 20 games. And I feel that if Rodri does leave, him and Nico González should rotate at certain times. And maybe Nico and Anderson can teach Bouaddi um, a bit of stuff. If Rodri stays, maybe he can teach Bouaddi the role and then leave next year, and then Bouaddi can take over. So, yeah. 85 million pounds, it was reported, I think 80 million. So, 80 to 85. I am happy with he's 19 or 18, so there is room for him to improve. He's not the complete article, but over time I think you can actually make him that complete article. I think it would be a good signing. Um we're still negotiating over a deal. Lille still would prefer for him to stay another season at Lille, but Manchester City don't see it beneficial as they would rather just keep him, you know. But yeah, it'd be a good one to see how that pans out. And by the end of it, if he gets loaned back to Lille for a year, or if he stays at Manchester City and learns off of some of the players there, which is what I would rather do and just pay a little bit extra. I would also like to say, just talk about James Trafford quickly. Maresca's had a chat with Donnarumma. He's told Donnarumma that Donnarumma is his number one. James Trafford, I don't know if he's had a chat with Maresca because he was at the World Cup, so they haven't really had time to speak. Probably have done on a phone call or something. But James Trafford is Maresca's number two. James had asked to leave the club before May, and it was looking to be around 40 to 50 million to get him out. It was 40 million pounds, and Leeds are looking like they're going to sign that 40 million to get the goalkeeper. It's close to where he's staying at the moment, so it's not far away that he's moving. Whereas if you move to, for instance, an Aston Villa or Brighton, you'd be having to move to a completely different place. I do wish the player the best. I really hope that in the future he can become England's number one. We knew that Jordan Pickford was going to be England's number one this year, no matter what Trafford did. Trafford could have won the league, and it would still have been Pickford. But when the bit that was a bit disappointing was that Henderson started before Trafford, Dean Henderson. So, you know, I'm just thinking about, is this the right move for James? Is it not? Because he wants to play week in, week out. He feels that what he could bring to Leeds will be good enough, feels that he could be their number one, which I feel he can be their number one. But I just think that in the future he's going to regret his decision as he's going there for playtime and not to actually win trophies. Which, when he looks at it now, he's watching the likes of Donnarumma thinking, "Oh, I could be at the club, or I could do this, I could do that." When actually, what he needs to look at is himself and go, "Am I going to regret not wanting to win trophies constantly in Manchester City?" It's been a good year for him. He won the FA Cup and Carabao Cup. But going forward, is he going to wish that he stayed with us and won a Prem and things like that? I did hear there's a release clause, but I think it's around 60 million euros. And Newcastle were keen to buy the player, but then we tried to add every add on clause, sell on clause, release clause, and they didn't have the financial funds for it. So that's why they didn't bother trying to get him. Aston Villa wanted him as well when I honestly thought that Aston Villa was the place he was going to go, but it looks like he's chosen somewhere closer to home, with Leeds United Football Club. Nico González is one of those players that he wants to leave the football club at times. His wife isn't too happy with staying in Manchester and would prefer to go back to Spain. And Nico González isn't happy because he's not getting enough game time. And if you're not getting enough game time, like with the likes of James Trafford, you're going to be sat there going on the benches. Oh, I think I need to leave if I want to really start for my national team and things like that. Um, Nico G, I think the problem with him is if Rodri leaves, it looks like he's going to get more game time. But we've brought in Anderson and Ayyoub Bouaddi. We've got Tijani Reinders who may go. Um, We've got Kovacic, but I think Kovacic is gonna go. But we may bring in another midfielder on top of Bouaddi, and that just means that that's just gonna if that does happen, then Nico González isn't actually going to get any game time at all, which is a problem for him as he'll just be sat there, going, "Why did I choose to stay here when I could have gone somewhere else?" So, he's not particularly settled into Manchester, but I just hope that he can stay, and then if Rodri does leave, then him and Bouaddi can play like 30 games a season or 20 games a season each in midfield, partnering Anderson, and at times play together as well, especially in cup games against lower league sides and others, where you can sort of look at it and go, Anderson doesn't need to play every game. If he plays every game, there's a higher risk of him getting injured. We don't want him to get injured, so we would prefer to play you and Bouaddi because you've barely played. So if we stick you two together and it's against a lower league side, we're not going to be hit on the counter that many times. You won't have to stop um, counter attacks that many times, but you will literally have the ball to your feet, be passing it round, trying to find space, and then attack. So you don't have to be one of them that's going into the duels every single time, but just more of a instead of a number six, more like a number 8/10ish of just the balls at your feet, just try and find space, work it around the pitch. No one's going to really try and take it off of you because it's against a lower league team. Control possession, pass it to players like Haaland and see what they can do. So it's a season where not everyone's going to be given a new chance. Some people are going to want to leave because of the effects that Pep had on the team. You've got the likes of Nico González, who got told that he couldn't pass the ball quick enough between the defence and getting it higher up the pitch. That progressing the ball, he was really slow by Pep, which is something that he didn't take too fondly. But now that Pep's gone, things may change. You got the likes of James Trafford. He wasn't happy with the situation under Pep being the backup goalkeeper. He came in and he did say in an interview he wasn't told he was going to be number one. He thought he would be. And Donnarumma came in and replaced him immediately because when an opportunity like Donnarumma opens up to a football club, you don't turn it down. That's not what happens. You buy the player, you use the player and you can see how good he is. When an opportunity like that for a lower price pops up, you're not going to say, "Oh yeah, no, we'll just stick with James," and then a backup goalkeeper. What is really fascinating is the fact that Pierce Charles has gone out on loan. I thought he was going to be the goalkeeper to come in to replace James Trafford when James Trafford left. But now he's gone out on loan. Who do we get? I think Ortega you can get on a free, but I wouldn't want to do that. What's next? Scott Carson and Edison. But I think that you could bring on the likes of that you could bring in the likes of like a young German goalkeeper from the Bundesliga or like a young kid from the academy or the EDS, or you could even bring someone from an English side from like the National League or the Championship, just as the backup. When you have two goalkeepers that are good enough to be number one, it never works out. When you had Edison and you had Stefan Ortega Moreno, Stefan was never going to be a number one at a top club. So he worked perfectly because you knew that when he came in to play certain matches, like against Tottenham when Edison got injured, that you could trust him enough to help you win the game. You could trust him to make sure that he doesn't make every single error in every single game. When you got the likes of James Trafford and Donnarumma, you have a bit of competition, which is good. You need competition. The same thing that Edison and Stefan Ortega Moreno had. But when you've got two that want to play in, week out, and know that they're good enough to start for a big team every week, that's when it doesn't work. Because they'll go, "Boss, why am I not playing?" And then the answer to that will be, "Oh, you're not playing because just didn't feel like it. You're not playing because Donnarumma is better than you." So then that player gets frustrated and then decides to leave before the season's like this says they want to leave before the season's even ended. So what we need to do is look for an upcoming goalkeeper within the age of 19 to 22 and just give them a chance as the backup. They can play in cup games if they're good enough. They can be the backup. Say if someone gets injured, like a Donnarumma gets injured, they can be the backup. You know, that's what for me we need to do. We need to look at someone younger, bring them in, and just learn off of Donnarumma a bit. And I know that James Trafford was young when we brought him in, but he was too good to actually be in that role as a backup keeper. So that's what you have to look at. You know, you have to look at someone who is within the age of 19 to around 22, and you have to ask them, do you want to come to City? Do you want to learn off Donnarumma? And do you want to play in the cup matches and maybe a Prem game here and there? And then see if they say yeah. And if they do, then get them in. Also, the homegrown status. If you could get someone from England, it would be fantastic. It would be absolutely fantastic because the homegrown's another problem that we've had yet again. Seems to be a problem near enough every year that we are losing players. Look at the likes of John Stones, gone. James Trafford, gone. Kalvin, on loan. You know, so we need people who have played here for a considerable amount of time when they were young, classed as homegrown, or just from the country. So, like, look at Nathan Ake. If he leaves, when Nathan's already left, my bad. If when Nathan left, that was another homegrown slot that disappeared. So what we need to do is we need to look at it as bring in someone who's homegrown, fill the quota, but also bring in someone that's young that can learn off Donnarumma. You know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye bye.